I can still hear her voice in my head, the way she leaned against the doorway that Friday morning, suitcase by her side, coffee in her hand, and said, "Babe, I'm heading to Mom's for the weekend. She's been feeling kind of lonely, so I'll probably stay a couple days." She kissed me quick, not slow, like she was in a rush, and before I could say much, she was out the door. Truth is, there was nothing strange about her visiting her mom. She'd done it plenty of times since we got engaged, but something about the way she said it this time. Too clean. Like a line she'd practiced. I brushed it off at first. I mean, we were solid, or at least I thought we were. She texted me an hour later saying she'd stopped for gas, then called around noon to say she'd just gotten to her mom's place. The call was short. Her voice was bright, almost too bright, and she said she and her mom were going to grab lunch. I hung up, went about my day, told myself not to overthink, but then 3 hours later I'm scrolling Instagram and I see my buddy Ryan's story. It's a picture of his cappuccino at this little cafe downtown, nothing special, except my eyes catch on the reflection in the window behind him. And I swear it's her. Same hair, same green jacket she left the house in. My thumb froze on the screen. My brain started running all these explanations. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was just someone who looked like her. But here's the thing. Her mom lives 2 hours away, and that cafe is 15 minutes from our apartment. I sat there, staring at my phone until the screen went black. My chest felt tight, like I'd swallowed a rock. I told myself I was being paranoid. That night, she texted me a photo of a home-cooked dinner. Lasagna, garlic bread. Said her mom had made it just for them. But something about the picture felt off. The table in the photo wasn't the one at her mom's house. I'd been there dozens of times. Her mom has this big oak table with a scratch in the corner. This one was sleek, dark, no scratch. I zoomed in, looked at the chairs, the background, the lighting. My stomach started to sink. Saturday morning, she texted, "Heading out with Mom to run errands. Talk later." I looked at the timestamp, and here's where it gets tricky. Her text showed she was sending from an IP address here in the city, not her mom's town. I'm not proud of it, but I opened our shared phone account and checked the location services. And there it was. Her phone pinging from a hotel downtown. I just sat there for a minute, staring at the little blinking dot on the map, feeling my hands start to shake. You ever have that moment where you know if you dig 1 inch deeper, your whole world might change? That was me. I could have ignored it, waited for her to come home and feed me whatever story she'd rehearsed, but I couldn't. Curiosity. It's a dangerous thing. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove. The closer I got to the hotel, the heavier my chest felt. Like I was walking into a fire I couldn't put out. It wasn't some fancy 5-star place, just a decent mid-range hotel, the kind business travelers use. I parked across the street, angled so I could see the lobby through the glass doors. 10 minutes passed. 20. My knee was bouncing nonstop. And then I saw her. She stepped out of the elevator, hair down, wearing that same green jacket from yesterday. But she wasn't alone. Walking right beside her, laughing at something she said, was someone I recognized. Someone I never expected to see with her. My jaw tightened, my mind spinning so fast it was hard to keep my eyes on them. They walked out of the lobby together, close enough that their arms brushed, and I swear I felt my whole body go cold. I ducked down in my seat, heart pounding, trying to process what I was seeing. I wanted to storm out, confront them right there. But another part of me needed to know more before I made my move. I stayed low in my seat. Watching them walk down the street like it was the most normal thing in the world. Like they didn't have a care. And truth is, I was trying to slow my breathing because my chest was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The guy with her, Mark, wasn't just some random friend. He was someone I'd known for years. Someone who'd been to our place, who'd sat across the table from me at dinner. He wasn't family, but he'd been around enough that I thought I could trust him. And now here he was, walking with my fiancée, smiling at her like they were sharing some kind of secret joke. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. A part of me wanted to jump out of the car, cross the street, and just say, "Really? This is what you're doing?" But the other part of me, the one that's a little colder, a little more patient, told me to wait. Because sometimes, you don't just catch someone in the act. You let them think they're safe. And then you take everything they give you without them realizing it. I started the car, pulled into traffic, and stayed far enough back to follow them without being noticed. They walked a couple blocks to this little bistro. The kind with outdoor seating and string lights overhead, even in the middle of the day. I parked down the street, got out, and walked past on the opposite sidewalk, phone in hand like I was texting. They were sitting side by side, not across from each other, her hand resting on his knee for just a second before she pulled it back. I kept walking, circled the block, came back around, and by then they were laughing over something on her phone. I couldn't hear the words, but the way they were leaning in, the way she looked at him, yeah, it wasn't friendly. I snapped a quick photo as I passed, nothing obvious, just enough to remind myself later that I wasn't imagining any of this. After about 40 minutes, they left the bistro and headed right back to the hotel. I followed at a distance, my mind running a mile a minute. Was this the first time? How long had it been going on? And why Mark, of all people? When they went back inside, I knew I had a choice: confront them now, or dig deeper. I walked into the lobby like I belonged there, gave the front desk a polite nod, and headed toward the elevator. I didn't press any buttons, I just stood in the corner like I was waiting for someone. And then the elevator dinged. The doors opened, and there they were again, stepping out like nothing in the world could touch them. They didn't even notice me at first. It wasn't until she turned her head that her eyes locked on mine and froze. For a split second, her smile vanished, replaced by this wide-eyed look, like she'd seen a ghost. What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice tight. Mark glanced at me, then at her, then back at me, clearly trying to piece together how much I knew. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at both of them, letting the silence stretch until it got uncomfortable. "Thought you were at your mom's," I finally said, my tone flat. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and then looked at Mark as if he might have an answer ready. He didn't. "It's not what it looks like." She tried, but even she didn't sound convinced. I gave a short laugh, not amused, just tired. "Then why don't you tell me what it is?" Her eyes darted toward the lobby exit, like she was calculating whether she could just walk away and deal with this later. I took a step closer, lowered my voice. "Go ahead. I'm listening." Mark shifted, looking like he wanted to speak, but she cut him off. "Can we talk somewhere private?" she asked. I shook my head slowly. "We're not doing that. Not until you explain why you're here." "With him. When you told me you were 2 hours away." The air between us was heavy, people moving through the lobby barely noticing what was going on. Finally, she let out this little sigh, the kind you give when you realize the lie you've been holding on to just broke in your hands. But what she said next, that's when I realized this was bigger than I thought. She just stood there looking at me, like she was flipping through some mental Rolodex of excuses, trying to find one that might stick. And truth is, I could see in her eyes that whatever came out of her mouth next wasn't going to make a difference. Finally, she said, "We've been meeting here for a while, because I didn't know how to tell you." And the way she said it, like lying for months was somehow an act of kindness, made my stomach turn. I looked at Mark. Yeah, I'm going to use his name now because he doesn't get to hide in this, and he had that guilty but defensive look, like he'd jump in if I pressed too hard but also wanted to look like he wasn't the bad guy. I asked her straight, "How long?" She looked away, said, "A couple months." I just stared at her, stared and waited. because liars always leave gaps, and I was giving her the rope to hang herself with. After what felt like a full minute, I said, "Try again." That's when her shoulders dropped. Her voice softened almost to a whisper. Since before the engagement, I let that sink in for a second. So when she said yes in front of our friends, when she put that ring on her finger and cried like she was happy, she was already sneaking around with him. My chest felt tight, but my mind was weirdly clear. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't shaking, I was cold. "So you've been lying to me since before you promised me forever," I said, not as a question but as a fact. She winced. Mark opened his mouth, maybe to justify it, maybe to apologize. But I didn't care. "Don't," I said, cutting him off with just one word. I looked back at her. Was it worth it? Every fake trip to your mom's, every smile, every "I love you" you didn't mean? She didn't answer. That silence said more than anything. I thought about the nights she'd come home tired, about the times she'd canceled plans last minute saying her mom needed her. I thought about all the times I'd defended her to anyone who doubted her. And standing there in that hotel lobby, I realized I'd been defending a version of her that didn't exist anymore, maybe never did. I could have blown up right there. Could have let the whole lobby know exactly what these two were doing. Could have burned it all down in public. But I didn't. Instead, I took one step back, looked at both of them, and said, "You're perfect for each other." Then I walked out. I didn't look back, didn't slow down. Just went straight to my car and sat there for a moment, letting the weight of it hit me. My phone buzzed before I'd even pulled away, her name lighting up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, it was the same tired script. "Please just let me explain. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I still love you." I deleted it halfway through. That night, I went home and started packing her things. Every photo, every piece of clothing, every little trinket she'd left in my space went into boxes. I didn't break anything, didn't throw it around. I just removed her from my life piece by piece. It was almost methodical, like cleaning out a room after a tenant moved out. The next morning I sent her a single text. "Your stuff is in the garage. Come get it when I'm not home." A few minutes later she replied, "I'm sorry." That was the last time she used my number. Over the next few weeks, word got around. Some friends reached out to say they'd heard her side of things. Some didn't reach out at all. Mark didn't try to contact me, which told me he knew there was nothing he could say that wouldn't make it worse. I wasn't interested in gossip or revenge. I was interested in reclaiming my life. And slowly, I did. I went back to the gym. I started cooking for myself again, not just throwing together whatever we both liked. I took weekend trips alone, cleared my head, started remembering what it felt like to make choices without having to consider someone else's lies. Funny thing, once you cut out the rot, the air feels cleaner. Now, months later, I still pass that hotel sometimes on my way into the city, and every time I do, I get this small, sharp reminder, not of what I lost, but of what I avoided. Because marrying her, that would have been like buying a house without checking for termites. And trust me, I'd rather walk away with nothing than live in something that's already falling apart from the inside. She thought she was getting away with it. She thought I'd never find out. But I did, and I walked away before she could take another piece of me. And that, to me, is the only ending that matters.